So the press conference for Oleksandr Usyk Tyson Fury 2 just wrapped up there, and the first press conference they had about a year ago was an interesting watch. It was a very interesting watch, and that actually happened the day after they announced the Day of Reckoning show. So it was kind of all it was all one big thing really. But that press conference was interesting nearly a year ago because you seen both guys together. Tyson Fury straight away was very almost enraged at Oleksandr Usyk. Do you remember just straight away enraged and he wore, I don't think he had like a blazer, I think it was, but no shirt underneath it. With this one, it was, I won't say the roles are reversed in terms of how kind of flash they were in terms of what they were wearing. There was none of that bravado from Tyson Fury. There was no shouting. There was no real anything. It was very respectful from Tyson Fury, which, again, given how almost aggressive Fury was towards Oleksandr Usyk, certainly at this point last year, is an interesting one. Fury, I know it is. Fury is someone, when you see him at press conferences, he makes a habit of making a grand entrance. I say grand entrance, but he makes an entrance of sorts. He's wearing maybe nothing underneath his blazer or whatever. He's dressing up like Batman, going and chasing the Joker, stuff like that, like he did in the Klitschko press conference. He's always doing something. With this one, Oleksandr Usyk came out to, I guess, like bells or something. You could almost say it was like a church kind of song, so to speak. And I didn't actually realize it was Usyk when he came out because I wasn't expecting to see him suited and booted with a briefcase and gloves on. It looked strange to say the least. I was like, oh crap, that's Oleksandr Usyk. And they sat together. They didn't give much away. Neither guy gave really much away, but what Fury said was quite interesting. In recent interviews, Tyson Fury, and obviously in the immediate aftermath in the ring, post-fight with Oleksandr Usyk, he said, well, they gave it to him because of the conflict that's going on in his country, that he felt he won the fight, that he feels that they're not going to give it to him, that it's all political, this, that, and the other, which I thought, that nonsense. Oleksandr Usyk clearly won the fight, but to actually use that as a reason for why Oleksandr Usyk won the fight or why it was given to him is absolutely just, I'm not even going to go there. In the press conference straight away, it was like, no, Oleksandr Usyk won. Tyson Fury feels the fight was close, but Oleksandr Usyk got it by a point. The words he used was he's not going to be as complacent this time. Does that imply that at times in the fight, Tyson Fury, maybe between rounds, 4 to 7, where he was looking good, got a little bit complacent and let Usyk back in? I don't think it was necessarily that. I mean, I think that Usyk would have got back into it regardless. I think that the punches he was landed on Tyson Fury even before round 9, and he hurt Tyson Fury badly, were starting to offset Tyson Fury's rhythm. I mean, I think he got his nose either broken, it certainly got bloodied in round number 8, which is before obviously the big 9th round. But it is interesting that Tyson Fury, again, it was a strange one. I'm used to Tyson Fury when he's at these press conferences, especially with someone like Oleksandr Usyk, someone who he knows he's got a real threat there to, being a very loud, brazen character. Even in the Wilder press conferences going into, I think it was the rematch, he was a lot more loud. In this one, it was just subdued. I know what I got to do. This whole narrative he's trying to spin that Oleksandr Usyk, I really won the fight. I need to knock him out this time. Now, he did talk about the need for a knockout Tyson Fury, saying that, well, in any rematch he's had, which off the top of my head, the John McDermott rematch, the Derek Chisora rematch, and he's had 3 fights there, but you know what I mean, the rematch fight, and the Wilder rematch, all those fights ended in a knockout. Well, they all ended in a knockout to me. You could say a stoppage. They ended in a stoppage. The Wilder fight was a towel thrown in. The Chisora fight was a corner retirement, and the McDermott fight was a referee stoppage. Just for context, I'm just saying. But he's completely right. They did all end with him winning via stoppage. He does tend to do a little better in the rematches, but again, not against this caliber of opponent. I mean, saying I did better in a rematch against John McDermott, I did better in a rematch against Chisora, I did better against Wilder. That, I mean, with the greatest of respect, that doesn't take much doing if you're someone of the level that Tyson Fury was, certainly when he was rematching Deontay and Wilder. That doesn't take a great deal of doing. Rematching someone like Oleksandr Usyk is very, very different. I did find it interesting what Spencer Brown, I kind of tended to zone out with a lot of what he was saying. I tend to do that with him anyway. But he did mention that this is going to be a bigger, stronger Tyson Fury, which is something that a lot of people speculated that Tyson Fury. I said it myself. I didn't necessarily think that the weight was necessarily wrong in terms of he came in the 260s. He was the lightest he'd been in many a year. But he didn't look, I mean, on the scales when he did, the flex the muscles and stuff like that. I've seen Fury way heavier, but have more definition in his muscle. He looked really. He didn't look in poor shape, but his body just didn't look right. It's the best way I can explain it. It just looked like, there was muscle, I believe the word atrophy or something like that. It looked like that. It looked like, some of the muscle mass was just going, and he I don't want to say he looked soft. Soft implies that, he always looks soft. He's never going to be an Adonis. But, you see what I'm getting at with that. So it's interesting that they're talking about putting on some weight, because I did notice Tyson Fury. He didn't look that heavy. Well, he's always going to look heavy, you know what I mean? But he's a big 6'9" guy. I mean, he couldn't be light if he tried. But he looked heavier at the Joshua Dubois show than he did here. He definitely looked heavier there. But I would hazard a guess that Tyson Fury, they're probably looking at the 270s this time. They probably feel that that's his best weight to fight at in terms of retaining strength. Might retain strength, but how well are you going to retain stamina if you're trying to push forward or you're trying to move and a fight that could go potentially long? It's a question. In terms of Oleksandr Usyk, yeah, look, Oleksandr Usyk, the English is not his first language, obviously, so some things, I think he gets a little bit more than maybe he lets on, but it was very yes, no. That's pretty much it. It was yes, no. And they asked him, did anything surprise you about Tyson Fury? And he just said yes. And then they asked him, what was that? I don't remember. And likewise, Tyson Fury said the same. I'm more inclined to believe that Tyson Fury does not remember what surprised him, because he was wishing people a Happy New Year post-fight. But Oleksandr Usyk, very camp reserve. Dev Sani did ask an interesting question. He asked Oleksandr Usyk, what motivates you to keep doing it? And he said, I'm paraphrasing, but nothing motivates me. This is just what I do. Essentially, routine. This is his routine. Train, fight, win. Train, fight, win. Not necessarily the motivation, which I did find is interesting, because, not necessarily the motivation. The motivation was there for Usyk to become undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And now it's the routine. That was interesting. Towards the end, Dev Sani asked Oleksandr Usyk, what's the purpose of the gloves and the briefcase? Well, the gloves apparently were just for show. But the briefcase had 2 pictures of round 9, Usyk landed left hand on Tyson Fury, to which Tyson Fury kindly signed. That's what I mean. There was a bit more camaraderie between the two fighters in this fight. It was, again, stark contrast to the first press conference. And I don't want to call it the second press conference, because I know originally it was sold as a Fury Usyk press conference, the one he had up in Morecambe, the impromptu one. But that wasn't really... That was just bizarre. That was flipping bizarre. That just made no sense. This, again, stark contrast to their first press conference they had nearly a year ago now to launch their first fight, which was meant to be in February. We know it happened in May. Both guys and their teams were trying to make the case that although the fight has happened in May, and although the fight has happened in December, it's like a completely new fight, because both guys are experienced, both guys know one another, and both guys can crucially make improvements between now and then, to which I think both guys will. I mean, Oleksandr Usyk was saying immediately after the fight that he's looked and noticed mistakes he was making and looking to address them. Excuse me. Tyson Fury likewise. I just think with Tyson Fury, given the fact that it went from camp to that face plant, and look, I don't begrudge someone going for a few drinks, of course not, but not going straight in, you can take a break, but going straight in and getting, annihilated. And Oleksandr Usyk already looking at how he can improve. The fact that he's not changing the team up even a little bit, even removing some guys. Although Sugar Hill Stewart, interestingly, was the only one at the press table, which I felt was interesting. There was no John Fury. There was Eddie Hearn, of all people, sitting at Tyson Fury's side. I mean, if you had said to me, and I'm sure if you'd said to Eddie Hearn in 2018 that you'd be sat at the far end of a table with Tyson Fury in his corner, not in his kind of team on the table, but Frank Warren is the main guy, I'm sure if you said that to him, he'd just laugh at you and say you're crazy. And it's happening now in 2024. That's gotta look. I know Eddie Hearn's like to be there, but that's gotta suck for him. I mean, that's gotta suck for him. That like Frank Warren is it's Frank Warren's guy, and you're there, you know, and obviously he's big and Tyson Fury up. I mean, yeah, that's gotta suck for Eddie Hearn. But in terms of the press conference in of itself, again, it was not as compelling viewing as the first one. A lot more respect between both guys. Not a great deal to gauge. I've seen people on the online chat were saying Fury looked nervous, this, that, and the other. I don't necessarily know about that. I mean, for me, it almost seemed like the way, kind of more so Eddie Hearn was talking about it, that, tanking both guys for what they've done to the sport. It almost sounds to me like this is both guys' retirement fight. And I'm not saying it necessarily is, but that's kind of the way, certainly how Eddie Hearn came across. That's how it almost seemed for me from the outside looking in. So, interesting watch. I'd recommend you watch it. I'd recommend you watch it. It was not as entertaining as the first press conference they had, but definitely an interesting one. And look, I think we're getting this fight in December. I've said that. But for the people who don't think, because there are people who have opinions I very much respect, who've said that they're a little bit dubious as to whether we'll get this fight in December or not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Will we or won't we get this fight? Let me know your thoughts on the press conference as a whole. I'll leave it there, people. Smash the like button if you could. Subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Peace.